And welcome into the Tuesday edition. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, brought to you by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. We are live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, and Ian Safar decided to come back for day two. We appreciate it.
I made it.
He did make it. Joe, how are we doing? What's going on?
Doing okay. I could rant about right now about the fact that I got my card to get my real ID at the driver service center at 9:50 something a.m. I got called at 4:03 p.m.
Oh my goodness.
And I didn't have the proper documentation because Katie told me the wrong stuff to bring. But I have a long fuse, so I won't do that.
Good gracious.
So I look forward to another day at the driver services center.
Golly. That's a long day, my friend.
I mean, to be fair,
For no payoff.
to be fair, I did leave for a while because I knew it'd be some time. So I did leave for a couple hours right away because
Okay.
I knew, but then there were many hours of the back end.
Just sitting there.
And so you get a 2-minute grace period when your phone gets texted, you can go. So I went in my car, and that's why I got to listen to a lot of really excellent commentary on college football here on this program. But finger on the pulse stuff here in the afternoon. It was really enlightening.
He was excited about you yesterday. I saw him at the Preds game, and he was very excited that you offered your thoughts.
Yeah,
on his takes yesterday.
The question it's always the eternal question: that dumb or just lying?
Who knows?
The yin and the yang.
Yeah. Sometimes I wonder. I don't know.
I think, I think Jared's pretty smart. So I think mostly just lying.
We'll see.
We can all have our own interpretations.
We got a lot.
Fun day.
It was. Sounds like a great day for you. Looking forward to you having a repeat experience of that again today.
I'll let you know how it goes tomorrow.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate that. So we got a lot to get into on the program today. Gentry Estus from the Tennessean will join us at 7 o'clock. We'll get into the Nico situation with him, get into the Titans and the Predators as well. All things Tennessee sports with Gentry Estus coming up at 7 o'clock. Chris Vannini from The Athletic will be with us at 8. We'll dive into the Tennessee situation with him as well. We were going to get into the Legarius Sneed conversation later this hour on the Titans front. If you missed that, quite a development on Legarius Sneed. So we'll see the latest on that information and get your thoughts on all that coming up. But, Joe, I want to start with the Predators, not from the standpoint of the game last night. They lost last night 7-3 to Utah. And, yeah, it's game 81. So game 82 coming up tomorrow, and then the season's over. And probably the first thing we're going to be talking about on Thursday morning, Joe, is going to be, by the end of that day, is Andrew Brunette going to have his job? That's going to be probably the conversation. So we've talked last week about how big of an offseason this is, some of the steps that they could take this offseason to get themselves in a spot where they could potentially be competitive again next year, which seems like it's a long way away at the moment. The first step is going to be the coach. Is Andrew Brunette going to be the coach of this team when training camp opens up next fall? Or, as Barry Trotz has gone through an evaluation process here, which, by the way, it has been no secret that this decision, one way or the other, is coming. So this has been an ongoing evaluation process. I would hope that there's no, dragging it out. You either know or you don't. I think at this point, if you're Barry Trotz. So I'm interested to see, whether it's Thursday, Friday, is he still the head coach? Because I would think, Joe, it took a while for him to make a decision on John Hines, right? It was a month before they made a decision on John Hines.
And we I almost feel like it was not even necessarily, weren't we it seemed like, he didn't say for sure he's coming back, but it almost felt like, okay, he was probably coming back.
It felt like that, and I think part of the reason it felt like that was because it took so long. It was man, this is going on a while here. I don't, look, I'm not in Barry Trotz's head, so I couldn't tell you. I don't really know why it would take that long one way or the other with Andrew Brunette.
Well, but unless is there someone you're waiting on?
Could be, but
that would be why.
I would
right?
wonder who that would be at this point in the playoffs. I don't know. I don't know. Like, to me, if you're Pittsburgh, you're probably making a decision on Mike Sullivan pretty soon.
Right, so that'll be available or not.
Some people have said, like, what about Rick Taka? Is he going to get fired in Vancouver? I don't know. I kind of doubt it, but we'll see. But they're not making the playoffs, so you would think a decision on that comes pretty soon. So I don't know. Maybe you're right. Maybe there's somebody that shakes loose after a disappointing first round loss in the playoffs or something that you could wait on. But I kind of think that one way or the other, a decision probably needs to be made.
Yeah, I mean, the right thing to do is to make a declaration, either a firing or he's coming back, I think, as soon as possible. I think that's the right thing to do.
Well, and as we've talked about, I think there are some fans that are just waiting for the shoe to drop and it's a foregone conclusion that Brunette's getting fired. And I'm not approaching it that way. Now, do I think there's a good chance he'll be fired? A good chance? Yes, I do. Do I think it's guaranteed? No, I do not. So I will, frankly, if he's back as head coach, I will not be stunned by that. If he's fired, then I think you just ultimately think that somebody has to pay the price for the way that this season went. But I do not think that this is some foregone conclusion that he's going to be not the Predators head coach on like Friday. So we'll see.
What's your percentage?
I'll go 60% fired.
Okay, 60-40.
Yeah. And I don't know that I feel great about that, but that's where I'm going as we sit here today.
Yeah, I think I'd go 58-42.
That's good. I like it.
Just for the record.
Did you think about 57-43 or?
I thought about it, but then I went back to 58.
Ian, you have a percentage?
That's a good question. I'm leaning a little bit more towards the 55-60% range as well.
Okay.
I'd say probably just a slight favorite.
So we're all thinking it's a little bit more likely than not that he's fired.
That is my guess, but I don't know that.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm closer to 50-50. When you're just this is hard. Like, you go through all the little public clues there, and again, you can overanalyze a lot of things, and Barry Trotz says a lot of stuff.
Yeah, but
I mean, I guess it's like, we've talked about this, but it's like, what, like, this could have happened. The fact that it didn't happen before and some of the things he said, I mean, it's like, does he know for sure right now? That's what I'd like to know. Are these like exit interviews actually going to be like critical to him?
That would be, in terms of what's left in the evaluation, I think that's it. Like, it's is there anything that you uncover in these exit meetings that are going to happen in the next few days here with your players that makes you either confirm what you think your decision is going to be, or if you're leaning one way, does what they say in the exit meetings change that? Now, should it change that? I don't know. I mean, this is not really a situation where the season is abruptly ending. Like this, they've known that the season is coming to an end for a while now. So I would assume some of the conversations that you would typically have in your exit meetings, they've probably been having with Barry Trotz for a while here. Yeah. Now, it ultimately, you get to the end of it and you wrap it up, and that's what it is. And sometimes things happen at the exit meetings that you don't expect, i.e., Ryan McDonough walking up to you and saying, hey, I would really like to be traded. Like, I would really like to go back to Tampa Bay. And then you react accordingly if you're Barry Trotz. So
next time, say no.
Yeah, I mean, so things happen sometimes at these meetings that change plans. So you have to leave the door open for that. But I think by and large, if you're Barry Trotz, your evaluation should be done. And whether you're bringing him back or you're firing him, I think you should probably have a pretty good idea that's what you're doing heading into this week. So we'll see what happens on that front. As far as the offseason is concerned, I'm really interested to see what happens here with Jonathan Marchessault, because I think just like everybody else, conventional wisdom tells me that with his contract, with the lack of production this year, with the way that this has gone for everybody, that he's going to be back, Stamkos going to be back, Shea's going to be back, and they're running this thing back with their quote-unquote core group next year and maybe making some additions around the edges, or who knows, maybe they pull off some big hockey trade and, they're able to pull off some huge move with the draft capital that they've got. We'll see. I can tell you, I've had a lot of different conversations with people both in the organization and connected to the organization over the past couple of weeks that don't really think a lot of Jonathan Marchessault and the way that he has kind of approached things this season. So I'm very interested to see what happens on that front. And if it's as simple as, well, we're running it back with all of them next year, and that's just the way it's going to be, and we're going to try to make it work. And maybe forced to, like, I don't know if you're going to be able to trade that contract right now. But I don't think that Marchessault has necessarily made a hugely positive impression in year one with this organization.
So remind me of the term with him. The term is
5 years, 5-year contract. I could try and remember the dollar amount. It's 5 something.
4 years left in the fives.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting. I mean, it's like
33.
So, you know,
5.5 per.
5.5 per.
5.5, 4 years left of 5.
It's 34.
So okay, so a buyout is there's no way.
I would be surprised.
There's no way you're doing a buyout. That's just too much.
I don't know if it's like that bad where they're like at all costs we got to get him out of here.
To move him, possibly.
Could be. I mean, I have not spoken with Barry Trotz about this. I'll throw that out.
Yeah. You're
but
just, yeah.
They're just based on conversations that I've had. I don't know that it's been a hugely positive experience in year one. Now, how much of that is the situation? And they've been losing from the jump this year. I don't know. How much of that is, Trotz has talked about it's taken him and Stamkos a while to get used to being a Predator. Maybe it's some of that. I don't think he's some problem in the locker room. I just don't know that people have loved his approach all the time.
Yeah.
Is the way I'd put it.
So I'd love to know at his age after this season, with all information available, like how much interest around the league would there be for him?
Wow. And he would be also one where it's like, does he say something at these exit meetings where it's like, I don't know. Like, I think it took Stamkos a long time to, unwind from all the Tampa stuff and get used to being a Predator. I think he's there now. Like, I think he's in, and he wants to fix this next year. I'm not saying Marchessault doesn't want to fix it next year. I just think that there is kind of a difference in the way that those two are viewed.
Yeah,
with their approach.
Yeah. No, I mean, it makes sense. If there was something big that you were going to do, that's the place that makes sense to look. It's it's like, what can you do?
Yeah.
And like, is it necessary that you do that? I mean, is it a problem?
Right. That's that. I'm not saying anything's going to happen there. I guess what I would say is prior to some of these conversations that I've had, it's been a foregone conclusion to me that, well, I mean, you have to bring Shea, Marchessault, and Stamkos back because, number one, you may not be able to trade them. And number two, I mean, you spend all this money. Why not try to make it work? I'm leaving the door open for maybe something to happen in year one of this.
So would you compare this in any way to the way people used to complain about Matt Duchene?
I would say it's different in terms of some of the complaints that I've heard.
Because people actually, for the most part, got along with Duchene. It was just frustration with him.
I'll put it to you this way. Matt Duchene, for all his faults, I don't know that anybody ever questioned if he wanted to be here or not, is probably the way I would put it.
Yeah.
I don't know that that's always been the case with Marchessault.
Yeah, that's different.
Yeah. Which makes you ask, okay, you signed a contract, so.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I know the innermost thoughts of Jonathan Marchessault because I don't. I found him to be a pretty fascinating guy to talk to, but I'm just saying it's a situation to monitor.
Can we get him on today?
See what happens. Give him a try.
We'll see if we can get him on in the 6:45 hour.
Yes, exactly. Hey, John, wake up. 615.
We're talking about you, Jonathan.
1025, our phone number. Take your thoughts on the Predators and what could be a very interesting week for them as the offseason begins on Thursday morning. Coming up next, we'll get back a little bit into the Nico discussion from yesterday before we transition into Titans later this hour. Where in the world is Nico Iamaleava going to play quarterback next year? We'll get into that. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode. Taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Speaking of our text line, you can win an exclusive Keith Urban experience. Text in the keyword Keith to 615-737-1025 to receive a link to sign up. for a chance to win all-inclusive tickets to the Eurostone Club at Bridgestone Arena to see Keith Urban, plus a chance to win $1,000 in cash as well. Again, text the keyword Keith to 615-737-1025. So, Joe, we talked a lot about Nico Iamaleava yesterday and his departure from Tennessee. We will do that again today throughout the program. Gentry Estus will be with us at 7. Chris Vannini from The Athletic at 8 o'clock. All that coming up. My question now is, with the portal coming open this week, where in the world is he going to play quarterback? What is the next stop for Nico Iamaleava? Now, there's been all sorts of stuff that's been floated out there. Like, some website had the prediction of where he was going to end up yesterday is
Crystal ball.
The crystal ball. Him ending up in North Carolina with Belichick, which, again, brought up how we ended the show yesterday of me picturing, like, Nico's dad out there doing leg presses with Belichick's girlfriend, who apparently is just walking around the practice field up there in North Carolina. So that's been interesting to watch, too. A lot of interesting stuff going on in North Carolina. But apparently that's not happening. Pete Nakos from On 3 putting it out there that doesn't look like North Carolina is going to be the destination for Nico Iamaleava. So I am very interested to see where he ends up and what that looks like from both a program standpoint, potentially a compensation standpoint. Joe, how do you view where things stand with Iamaleava right now, and are there any spots that jump out to you as to where he may end up?
Well, again, just to remind, we talked about it yesterday, but just to remind anybody who maybe have not heard, he can't go to the SEC unless he wants to sit a year. You can go, and you'd have to sit a year like in the old days. So
it doesn't sound like an ideal
that's
situation.
Not happening. When I heard the crystal ball thing yesterday, I'm like, okay, that's intriguing. Belichick and Nico would be, man, that thing would be fascinating.
Nico's dad and Belichick would be fun.
Yeah.
Nick
and Bill.
Yeah.
Just hanging out. Nick, Bill, and what's Belichick's girlfriend's name?
I don't remember.
Haley?
I have no idea.
Let us know, somebody. Anyway. Amber?
Jordan.
What's that?
Jordan.
Okay. Jordan?
Yeah, Jordan.
At North Carolina.
Yeah.
Oh, how fitting.
She spells it different. D-O-N.
Yeah, Jordan.
Jordan
Okay. Hudson. There you go.
Okay. That would have been fun. It's not going to happen, unfortunately. It's too bad. There's nothing that is like at the power level with like a team that could do something. Again, Oregon, I would get the idea for like if they were thinking like for next year, but UCLA, the thing is his brother, Madden, of course, was committed to UCLA.
Yeah.
And then decommitted and went to Arkansas. So could an
Iamaleava?
Why? We've been saying it for years. Why did I have a stroke?
I don't know. Ian, do we need to have
Hey,
some
at least
medical
you waited
attention?
until he's gone.
Yeah.
At least you don't have to worry about it
That's
anymore.
true.
Yeah, but we're still going to be talking about him forever. Whatever he go, we're going to follow his whole life from here.
GB Joe strikes again. That guy leaves as Tennessee quarterback, and Joe's like, I will not call you by your proper
I've
name.
forgotten your name already.
Maybe that's what it is. Maybe
you don't follow in the footsteps of Joe Milton and then leave.
Maybe it is like some sort of like deep-seated issue I have with him, so I'm just butchering his name on purpose. Iamaleava.
Yes.
God. Maybe an Iamaleava does end up at UCLA after. They're a bad program. It's UCLA. It's a tradition-rich program. It's in the Big Ten. The money's going to be there, all that stuff.
Oh, yeah, they are in the Big Ten, aren't they?
Yeah. Yeah. It's dumb. Yeah. College football is pretty dumb. But, I don't have another great situation for him.
I saw Tulane being floated out there.
Yeah,
yesterday.
I'm glad you brought that up. Tulane is that's actually not like the worst idea. And like their offense, I think actually he could fit pretty well in what they do. So that one is not a terrible idea. But again, it's just like this whole thing was just botched so badly. Like the more you think about it, man, it's just like if you had a good year this year, like a really good year, you took a huge step. Presumably he's been working all off season. there are some attempts to improve the situation around him. I mean, he could have been potentially a draft pick.
Yeah.
Could have been draftable. I don't know that he would have been. I mean, I guess it probably would have ended up with him needing another year. But now it's like, okay, so where's your spot? I mean, I think he's too talented for someone to not want to get in there and take a shot with him. But also, I think that, the NFL stuff, I think if he's good enough at that point, yeah, the teams will grow about it, but I don't think that's, I don't think this thing is a big deal. I don't think it'll be a big deal if he's good enough. But I think for college programs is where right now it's like, with
I really
all
wanna deal
this
with that?
stuff, with all this stuff, plus he wasn't great last year. It's just such a bad move, man.
Well, I guess one of my questions is he going to end up at a place that we would consider a quote unquote either lateral move or an improvement over the situation at Tennessee? And I mean that both from a program standpoint, where the team is standpoint, and also a money standpoint. Like, is he going to end up getting more money than he was making at Tennessee, or as much money as he was making at Tennessee?
I know we did a story, Sam Kahn and Antonio Morales did a story at The Athletic talking to a bunch of like personnel people and stuff around college football about what they think the market will be. And a few people were like, I could see him maybe getting a little more than he got at Tennessee. Maybe you push to 3, but like the 4 is off the. But I mean, even that to me, I'm like, okay, but who?
Yeah.
Who and why? I'm only giving him that much money if I'm like a quarterback away and I believe he's the quarterback and I have that opportunity. What team would that be? I mean, maybe I'm missing someone, but what team is, to the point where if you had the quarterback, you got the stuff in place and you don't have a starter already that you're already paying a lot of money to? Who would that be?
Wouldn't it be wild if like Tennessee goes and takes some quarterback, whoever it would be? People keep throwing like Avery Johnson out
And
there
then it
yesterday,
just becomes a swap.
and it becomes
situation.
a swap. Like
Yeah.
Nico ends up going there.
Well, honestly, that might end up being his best bet.
Yeah.
It's like wait and see what Tennessee does if they pull someone from a program, and now that program has a hole.
Yeah.
And okay, let's do it. I mean, I wish it could be an SEC team. We'll talk about the days of our lives we could have next year.
Yeah. Real quickly, Aaron on the text line says, I know it'd be crazy, but do you think Nico comes crawling back asking to be on the team? Seems like he's running out of decent options.
Yeah, it's done.
And I think that toothpaste is out of the tube.
That's gone.
I did see some Tennessee fans talking about that yesterday of like, what does he do if he looks around and there's like no good option for him? Does he just go like crawling on his hands and knees back to Josh Heupel and say, let my dad screw this up, I'm sorry? I think that's done.
That's what he should have done Friday.
I think that ship has sailed. 615-737-1025, our phone number. Some interesting developments with L'Jarius Sneed that have now been made public and come to light over the weekend. We'll get into some of those details and reaction to that coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063 The Game, brought to you by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. We're going to get into the Tennessee quarterback situation coming up in the 7 o'clock hour. Gentry Estus from the Tennessean will be with us at 7 o'clock. Chris Vannini from the Athletic will be with us at 8. Taking your thoughts in the meantime, 615-737-1025. So some interesting developments that have now been made public for L'Jarius Sneed, Titans cornerback, that came out over the weekend. So I saw this story over the weekend, Joe, from Teresa Walker from the AP, and L'Jarius Sneed is being sued by a man from Texas for at least $1 million, Teresa points out in her piece, for allegedly either being the one or being a part of a vehicle that shot at him. That is the alleged offense here by L'Jarius Sneed. So I'll just read a few lines here from the AP. Texas man who says Titans cornerback L'Jarius Sneed or his personal assistant shot at him while he was sitting inside a Mercedes-Benz on a dealer lot in December is suing the two-time Super Bowl champ for at least $1 million. Christian, and I'm going to butcher this name, Nishimiyamana, was sitting inside the Mercedes-Benz G-Wagon on December the 6th in Carrollton, Texas. Neither he nor anybody else was hit by bullets fired from a Lamborghini driving past One Legacy Motors. Much of what happened is redacted in the police report obtained by the Associated Press. So Levi McCarthan, who is an attorney representing this man, who, by the way, joined Jared Stillman yesterday. So that was interesting.
Yep. That's interesting.
Might have a clip coming back here in just a few minutes from that. Says that also Sneed and a woman who identified herself as Sneed's mother called and threatened this man afterward, wanting him not to cooperate with police or retain an attorney. So that's where things currently sit. The Titans have been made aware of this. TD was on the radio talking about this yesterday. Paul Kuharsky came out with a piece at paulkuharsky.com talking about this as well. And basically this matter is now, from the Titans standpoint, been turned over to NFL security. So, Joe, as you kind of sift through this, what do you make of this alleged offense from L'Jarius Sneed and where things could go from here with this?
Yeah, I like it doesn't add up. There's something missing, obviously, in the story, but I mean, it's a not great situation, not a great look, especially the I guess the contact that happened afterward. I mean, I don't really understand like the situation itself, like what prompted it, like it's
pretty weird,
a very weird situation. But the accusation from the lawyer that Sneed and this woman identifying herself as Sneed's mother basically threatening, that's a problem. That's so whatever prompted this, whatever happened, there's some missing pieces of this story that we don't have. But the fact that not the fact, but the allegation is troubling. So, I do wonder, what this ends up meaning in terms of, obviously you have the civil lawsuit, but also what this could potentially mean in terms of punishment from the NFL.
Well, there's an interesting line by the attorney in this story as well, Levi McCarthan. He said, quote, "Regardless, the unprovoked aggravated assault of my client with a deadly weapon is part of a pattern of behavior for Mr. Sneed, and he must be held responsible for his actions so they do not happen again." Now, again, this attorney, Levi McCarthan, was on with Stillman yesterday, and Stillman asked him about that, like this pattern of the pattern of behavior that he was talking about in that quote. And basically, McCarthan didn't really have an answer for that. He's like, yeah, I don't really have any evidence. I just kind of heard that he may have been involved in situations like this before. So I don't know what that means. I don't know what that's going to mean in terms of this case. Like, if there's no evidence of that, then kind of sounds like you're just throwing that out there. So I don't really know what that means.
Yeah.
But regardless of what actually happened here, I think the biggest question I have is, okay, how is there allegedly a situation where either a misunderstanding happened or whatever it is, where there was apparently like no physical confrontation, not even really a verbal confrontation that's been reported here, that ends up with gunfire at a car. Like that's the part of this that I don't understand.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's a big piece here
Yeah.
that we don't have. I mean, unless we're just talking about just randomly firing into the ether,
Right.
and this is who happens to be caught in the crossfire. I don't. Yeah, it's very strange, and yeah, that's the thing. You throw that out there. I mean, we have no information that supports that, but when you're a lawyer in a civil trial,
yeah,
and you'll do things like that.
Yeah, and just this civil case, the lawsuit was filed on February the 20th. So this alleged incident took place in December. So it's happened a while ago, and I would assume the Titans have known about this for a little while. I mean, the lawsuit was filed on February the 20th in Dallas County, Texas. So it's just now coming out and being available. But the Titans, I would assume, have known about this for a while at this point.
Yeah, I would think so. So,
which, by the way, they've known about this for a while, and in the aftermath of it, still decided to move on from Chidobe Awuzie. So that part's interesting.
They got it mixed up.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
Oh,
oh crap! Cut the wrong guy.
Keystone Cops.
Yeah. I don't know. I thought about that yesterday. I was like, wait a minute. So, okay. So this happened in December. Maybe the Titans didn't know about it in December, but the lawsuit was filed in February.
During the season, by the way, this happened like
right
on a weekend where they're
when he's not playing.
Right.
But the lawsuit got filed in February, and then they released Awuzie in March. So it's like wow. So they knew that this was going down, and they still released Awuzie.
Right. Yeah.
So they really wanted to get him out of there.
I guess so. Yeah, and I guess there's no concern. I mean, with who knows what'll happen with the civil trial. I'm sure it'll be a settlement of some kind. That's almost that's how they almost always go. What will the NFL think about this? I mean, if like the NFL is just like us, like, okay, so what happened here? What am I missing here in this story?
Yeah,
I could see some kind of a minor punishment, I guess, for him.
Like, yeah, I don't know. Maybe so.
This is one of those that I don't really have a precedent for this one. It's a weird one.
Yeah, obviously when things like this happen, it's probably eventually is going to end up on the desk of Roger Goodell. So what does he decide to do? Like Stillman was talking yesterday about, if they end up suspending him here, well, then that takes the guarantees in his contract away, and you can basically move on from that if you're the Titans. So one thing that Stillman threw out there was like, are the Titans secretly behind the scenes? Like, Roger, just do what you got to do in this situation. I don't know. I don't know how they view all that, but
I would think that they might want like him to play and be good.
I mean,
like if he's absolutely toast, then I guess, right?
I would, in all seriousness, I would love to know, like, what does Mike Borgonzi think? Because he was on the other side of that deal.
Yeah, I mean, he was happy to trade him here.
Yeah.
Now he comes here and gets more time with him. It's a great question. But I mean, like, that investment, you could get out of it. But also, like you said, you got rid of Awuzie. And I think, like, if you want to be a competitive football team this year, it would be better. Best case with him would be that he's healthy and plays, wouldn't it?
You would think. I will say, like, we keep talking about how maybe corner's not a huge need in the draft. Yeah. Maybe it is. I don't know.
Draft Travis Hunter. I keep coming back to it.
You might have to take one. Let's head to our 102.5 The Game phone line. Welcome in James to the program. James, good morning. Thank you for calling in.
Hey, fellas. Thanks for taking my call. I'm driving, so I'm just not hearing about this, too. My question is, what was he doing in Carrollton, Texas on December the 6th during the season? I don't know if you guys mentioned that. And then, like you just mentioned as well, you may want to think about taking Travis Hunter first in the draft now that this has happened. I'll hang up and listen to you guys.
Thank you, James.
Appreciate you taking my call.
Appreciate it.
Hey, I've been saying that the whole time, but no one listens to me.
It's true. I don't know that, like, if the Titans have decided to take Cam Ward, this news is not going to change that. Like, they're not going to be like, well, crap, Jerry Sneed might be in trouble, so we're going to take Travis Hunter.
No, they should say, "Oh crap! Oh, Travis Hunter's the best player in the NFL draft. We should probably take the best player."
Yeah, I mean
But, yeah, they're not
If
gonna
that's
do
the way
it.
they view it, then that's a different thing. But they're not changing if they're going Cam Moore based off this. What was he doing in Texas? I don't know. Like, was potentially rehabbing? I have no idea.
Could be.
I have no idea what he's doing in Texas.
Yeah,
On December- in December.
it's a good question, right in the middle of the season. But yeah, he's hurt, so I don't know. I remember like the year like Clowney got hurt, he just like, all right, I'm gonna get
See you guys later.
I'm gonna move away now. Moving trucks are here. All right. Bye, Vrabes.
615-737-1025, our phone number. More of your reaction to the L'Jarius Sneed situation coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game.
So, Levi, I want to start here with, which is, there is a police report that is heavily redacted. What I wonder is, can you fill in some of the blanks for us? What is kind of your side of the story about how all of this went down?
Well, Jared, thanks for having me. It's kind of a crazy story. I mean, it is literally the middle of the afternoon. My client was at a car dealership looking to buy a G-Wagon. And while he's sitting in the G-Wagon with a friend of his, this Lamborghini cuts a big U, comes screaming down the street, window rolls down about 10 feet away from the car. It's clearly Legarius Sneed, and we think his personal assistant. We actually have his name here, but I won't give it for the broadcast. And he just flat opened fire into this G-Wagon, and some of the shots hit the dealership, and a lot of them hit the car. And just by the grace of God, none of them hit my client. The thing that is shocking to me about it is I reached out to everybody I could find that was in any way connected to Legarius, and nobody would even call me back to discuss it. So I've got the police report where Legarius got arrested, and obviously the name's on it, and I've got information from my client. No one from the Titans or Legarius agent or Legarius has ever bothered to call me back.
That was Levi McCatherine, who is the attorney in this case that we've discussed with Legarius Sneed, that is a part of the civil suit here. He was on with Stillman and Company yesterday. So, Joe, what's your reaction when you hear that from Levi McCatherine yesterday on Stillman's show? Which, if you missed it, check it out. It was an interesting interview yesterday.
Yeah. It's an interesting segment. Yeah, I mean, it's the lawyer, and it's a lawyer in a criminal or in a civil case. So, those things can be just like police reports, by the way. Police reports are biased, so you keep that in mind too. The idea is to convince to make the case to have charges levied. So, I don't know. I mean, it's just a weird situation. Like, why are they pulling up and just randomly firing into people they don't know and have nothing to do with, and there's no prior interaction or anything, I mean, some of that stuff part of the redacted stuff in the police report? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the lawsuit apparently mentions that maybe they may have mistaken this defendant or this accuser for somebody else. I don't know. Like, the way you put it out there, I think is a good way to put it out there. Something is missing here in terms of how did we get from like eye contact or whatever it was to somebody allegedly wheeling around in a Lamborghini, rolling the window down and opening fire. Like that's a pretty steep escalation from that point. So, there's a lot of reaction to this. I think the easy thing is going to have to be, let's just wait for more information and see how it plays out here in terms of how that's going to affect Legarius Sneed and to whether or not this actually happened. Are there going to be criminal charges filed at some point? Like right now, it's just a civil filing, which is also like another interesting part of this. So right now, it's a civil case. It doesn't look like there's any criminal charges being filed based on the reporting to this point. Now, maybe that changes at some point, but that's where things stand, I think, currently.
Yeah, like I don't know what. I mean, there's always new information that could come into something like this, but I don't know. There was an arrest. There were no charges. So why would charges come now?
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, doesn't mean that doesn't mean the civil case couldn't. I'm sure there'll be some kind of a settlement. Also, doesn't mean the NFL won't do something, but
it does make you wonder though.
But short of charges,
Yeah.
I wouldn't think it would be that big of a punishment.
It does make you wonder though, like, if this alleged incident took place the way that it's being represented that it took place, why would there be no criminal charges filed? Right.
At least,
that would be one question that I would have,
like firearm charge or some sort of charge.
Yeah. So I don't know. Like,
maybe they. I mean, sometimes it takes time to get exactly what you want the charges to be. So maybe that's still coming, but it's very weird.
Bottom line is, it's not a great situation for L'Jarius Sneed and the Titans to be dealing with right now. So we'll see what happens on that front. Obviously, when you get into lawsuits and things of that matter, sometimes these things can take a while. So we'll see what exactly ends up happening here, but not really we talked about L'Jarius Sneed a lot this offseason. I think the headline I saw was just like, hey, we got somebody tweeted it out on Friday. It's like some breaking news on L'Jarius Sneed. And I was like, oh, what's this? What's this? Oh, that's not what I expected when I clicked this. So
it's been a real good run so far.
I thought to see
for
I was going to
L'Jarius.
click on it and be like, well, he's just running. He's like blazing speed out there. It's not what I saw.
The knee is completely healed.
Yeah.
He's running a 4.2. Nope, that's not it.
It's
been a rough year for Sneed with the Titans.
Not gone well to this point. We'll see what happens on this front. 615-737-1025, our phone number. Gentry Estus from the Tennessean will be with us coming up next. We'll get his thoughts on the Sneed situation, his thoughts on Nico Iamaleava and Tennessee, and a lot more. That's coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. Hour number 2, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, brought to you by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar here with you on this Tuesday morning. Then we head to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in our friend Gentry Estus from the Tennessean. Gentry, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, guys. I'm doing well. Hopefully, y'all are the same.
We are doing well. Appreciate you taking time to be with us this morning. So, Gentry, a wild weekend. You were in Knoxville at the orange and white game over the weekend where the Nico Iamaleava news broke, and he's a member of the program Wednesday in practice. Thursday, they've got an off day, and by the time Friday night rolls around, nobody can find him, and Saturday morning, he's not in the football program anymore. So, what do you make of the way that this has transpired with Nico Iamaleava now out as Tennessee quarterback?
Just a wild situation, and then to be out there on Saturday, what was surprising to me was internally how quickly Tennessee moved to remove all evidence of the guy. You go to the gift shop and all the jerseys had been taken out. His name had already been erased from the roster. There was even a photo of him in the media room that was just gone. There was a spaceman in the media room. So there was a concerted, very quick effort to move on this from Tennessee's standpoint. But in terms of, big picture, what this means for the program, it's obviously not good for next year's team. I mean, we'll see what happens now in terms of where they go at quarterback. But I do feel like Tennessee did the right thing, not only for their program, but also for college sports in general. This felt like a scenario where somebody was kind of drawing a line and saying, look, enough. And as I wrote, I feel like we're going to look back on this chaotic period and note several milestone moments that kind of accelerated the push for some needed regulation in this world. And I feel like this is going to be one of those situations.
Yeah, I mean, I saw that there was like a whole, like they couldn't put a quick picture of Sparks or something, or even like Bev Sparks or somebody in his place. It's just like an empty spot. Yeah, like nothing in the gift shop, right? I think you tweeted that, didn't you? Like the gift shop, all the eights,
yeah,
eight jerseys
were
out of there.
Taken away, like all those jerseys in there. It was like James Pierce and some others, but it wasn't. No more Nico.
Move fast, man. So speaking of moving fast, well, I look, every hour I come up with a new thought on this. We poo-pooed someone earlier, Gentry, because I mean the immediate reaction is like, oh my God, no. Someone earlier who mentioned this idea of like Nico kind of going out there, looking around, seeing that it's just not good, and saying, well, Josh, what if I like apologize to everybody? And, I mean, I at first I'm like, there's zero chance. And now I'm sitting here like, well, Tennessee, maybe they can find someone good. I mean, Robby's been watching YouTube of Avery Johnson.
That's my guy now.
Getting very excited about him, but they might not be able to get somebody good. Nico, I don't like his, I mean, basically, I just look around and I don't see any good situation for him. Like, he's not going to make as much money, I don't think. He's not going to it's just like a good team, a chance to start, like not have this be a huge setback. So as I throw this at you, Gentry, the possibility of a reconciliation after some cooling off period and involving a big apology and all that.
It would. I'm trying to think of any other instance where that has happened in this NIL world. I can't think of one off the top of my head.
I mean, players go into the portal and then come back. That happens, but obviously
this would be the extreme.
It's nothing like this.
Right. When we were talking about the attention this got, I don't know. It's a great question. I think would he come back to Tennessee for less money than he was making originally? I don't think so.
A pay cut.
Yeah, I mean, because that's really what this would probably end up being. So I feel like, given how this all showed up in the first place, I don't really see how that would happen. But it's interesting. And from the standpoint of, look, he's got a few years in that system. What was best for him as a quarterback was probably to stay at Tennessee and see what happened this season and was able to develop. So I think you could probably make that case that Probably would have been best for him to stay. It certainly would have been best for the Vols had he stayed. But this is a new world we're in here, and I tend to think he'll be a shark on this one and swim forward, not backward.
So, Gentry, they've got Jake Merklinger. They've got, obviously, George McIntyre, true freshman, on the roster of scholarship quarterbacks. Heupel said that they're going into the portal, and they're going to go find one now. I guess you can leave that open to interpretation of what exactly the type of quarterback they're going to look for. But my guess is they're probably looking for a starter in there. So, with that in mind, like how attractive is this job, for lack of a better term, for a quarterback that is either going to be in the portal or, with the way that college football works now, that Tennessee could potentially lure into the portal? How do you approach this if you're Josh Heupel, and what do you make of what they could be able to land?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's attractive. It's interesting because we've not really seen necessarily what that 22 season could do on the market when you put that in front of people and go, hey, look, here's what can happen. And what it did for Hendon Hooker and the receivers on that offense. Because from that point on, you knew there's been a steady line of Joe Milton to Nico. So now to abruptly change that, we're probably going to get a sense for how much respect is out there for Heupel's offense. And I would imagine there's a good bit. I imagine there's a lot of people, quarterbacks and their families around the country, who looked at this situation and said, Tennessee, all right, I wouldn't mind that. So I do think there would be a ton of interest from that standpoint. And the question more for me would be, how difficult would it be for a quarterback to come in brand new and become accustomed to that system? Because I feel like the big advantage Nico would have had coming back for another year was his experience running that offense. And I think the more seamless you are there, it becomes apparent with what they want to do offensively. If you remember, Hendon Hooker was directing that offense at a level that was almost unstoppable in terms of the speed and everything they were doing. And I think we've learned the last couple of years, it can go that quickly, but it doesn't always go that quickly. And I think some of that has to do with the quarterback's mastery of just what's going on out there. I think Nico would have taken probably a pretty big step coming back this year. And that's what bothers you the most if you're a Tennessee fan, because I think we've seen pretty good play out of Nico to this point, but there was certainly another level to get to. And I think a lot of people were coming into this season thinking he could get there.
So one thing that on this station yesterday, there were a wide range of opinions, including between Robby and me on this, is the idea of like what this does next year in terms of, I feel like obviously this is a big, like an approval rating sugar rush right now for Josh Heupel. People are like, they love how he handled it. They're cheering him coming off the bus. He drew that line in the sand, all that stuff, right? But also, so they're probably not going to be as good next year. What do you think does this give him more grace, in your opinion, with the Tennessee fan base? Or if you go through the pain of a 7-5, 6-6 season, does it just get to, then people start to be like, God, you can't let this happen. You can't lose our quarterback.
Yeah, I do think as we sit here right now in April, yes, I feel like you would get a little more grace. But that, you guys both know, we're sitting here in October and they've lost by 4 touchdowns to Alabama. It can change very quickly. We all know that. I feel like Tennessee's going to go get a good quarterback here. Now, the question is, how do they feel about Merklinger? Whether or not he would be capable of stepping into that role. I think he's probably got more ability than he's getting credit for in this whole conversation. You're talking about a 4-star recruit, a guy who probably has some experience that they like, and I feel like that could be preferable to somebody new coming in. But I feel like, look, you don't lose a player of that caliber and not have it affect what you're trying to do, especially when it's as abrupt as this was. It's a good question for Heupel moving forward, but you're right in the fact that, this was a popular move. And guys, not just with Tennessee fans. I've heard from a lot of people where I've gotten emails and said, I'm not a Tennessee fan, but I became one over this, or I'm I'm applauding what they did because, again, I feel like this had more to it from a big picture standpoint of what NIL has been doing to college sports. And this is one of those, there's been a lot of instances where the team didn't pay, right? And the guy just transferred quietly behind the scenes. That's just how this goes. But this became so public, and it was Tennessee drawing a line. And I feel like that Heupel will get a year of grace. I don't think he'll get 2 or 3.
Vol Twitter has grown. Is that what we've learned?
Vol Twitter is
Vol
expanding.
Twitter is getting bigger. Nice.
Yeah,
that's exciting for the world.
It could be a scary thought. Gentry, last thing for you here. We were just talking about the L'Jarius Sneed situation and the civil suit that has now come up. So as you kind of read through that and familiarized yourself with what's going on with Sneed over the weekend here that has just been made public, what are your thoughts and how concerned are you if you're the Titans right now?
It's not good. It's not good. And it does make you wonder how long they've known about this because this whole thing, I guess, happened in December. So there's obvious questions of, well, I guess he wasn't with the team at that time. And, that was during the period of, is he going to play again? Is he not? The whole situation with L'Jarius Sneed was strange from the start with the injury that wasn't that bad, then it was, and it wasn't, then it was, and I think this to me is an example of a lack of due diligence, certainly from the previous GM, but also just the previous regime that included the current CEO and Chad Brinker, and this just a clear miss. And at this point, until L'Jarius Sneed does anything in a Titans uniform to prove otherwise, this is a big miss. And I say anything in a Titans uniform because other than a handful of games, I've barely even seen the guy. He didn't practice. Can he come back and be an active member of the team? Fine. But is he going to start practicing? Can he actually stay healthy? I mean, there's a lot of questions here. Just at this point, it looks like a terrible move and a wasted third-round pick.
Gentry, great stuff, man. Really appreciate you taking time to be with us. Know it's been a busy time for you, so we appreciate it, and we'll talk to you soon.
You bet. Take care, guys.
Gentry Estus from the Tennessee and our guest on Robby and Rexrode. We'll react to what Gentry had to say, and I'll throw it out there. How attractive is the Tennessee quarterback opening? What kind of a quarterback can Tennessee land? Some interesting thoughts on this from friend of the show, Ari Wasserman, yesterday that we'll get to coming up next as well. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Tune in today to 94.9 The Fan for Vanderbilt baseball as the Commodores take on Lipscomb at Hawkins Field. Pregame at 5:45, first pitch at 6 o'clock. Coverage also available on the Game Nashville app and at thegamenashville.com. Also, make sure you check out Sports Talk 8:30 tonight as the Sounds take on Charlotte. Pregame at 5:20, first pitch at 5:35. Coverage also available on the Game Nashville app and at thegamenashville.com. Sounds baseball on Sports Talk 8:30, presented by Twin Peaks and Family Leisure. Appreciate Gentry Estus from the Tennessean for being with us in the last segment. So my question, Joe, for Tennessee fans, for the college football consuming public at large, how attractive is the Tennessee quarterback opening? We know they're going in the portal. We assume they're going in the portal, Joe, to identify a starting quarterback and to bring him in. So what sort of a player can they land? How attractive of an opportunity is this to a prospective quarterback out there that is either going in the portal or that could potentially be lured into the portal by Tennessee? An interesting discussion on this front yesterday with On3 Sports with Andy Staples and Ari Wasserman, and Wasserman had an interesting take on this. Here's what he had to say on their podcast yesterday.
This is kind of a really great gig for whoever can get it, right? Like, because Tennessee is in a position, like, I know they didn't beat Ohio State in the playoff last year. But
defense is still good.
Do you remember?
And you're still surrounded by some pretty good players.
Do you remember the fans and how much they got behind going to Ohio Stadium? Yeah, they're blue bonnets. Thank you, Lotus. They were blue bonnets. That's what that flowers were. That is a fan base that is just dying to love you. Dying to love you. It is a big-time program and a big-time conference that will make you a millionaire. Plays in one of the most iconic stadiums in college football, and they are at a place where they are dying to love their quarterback. Like, in terms of big-time football and being coveted in a way that you might not be coveted at other places, like, this is a tremendous opportunity and a very sexy opportunity for somebody who wants to step into that role. And whoever steps into that role will automatically start 5 or 6 spots ahead of where a quarterback typically does in the admiration department, because Tennessee is hurt by what happened here. They might act like they don't care.
You can be the greatest rebound QB of all time.
Yeah.
This is the greatest rebound relationship ever.
If Tennessee goes out and gets somebody and then they perform, like Tennessee might be like the sexiest spot to land imaginable.
So that was Ari Wasserman and Andy Staples yesterday with On3. Joe, what do you make of that take from Ari about how attractive the Tennessee quarterback opening is?
I miss those goofballs. Yeah, I think Ari makes some good points there. I think that certainly when it comes to like fans and, the big time program, the stadium, all those things, I mean, obviously it's attractive. Yeah, they're the places that the Vols are probably looking for quarterbacks, still probably playing good stadiums and have big fan bases and things like that. Now there is the kid from, apparently Belichick is after the kid from South Alabama, Gio Lopez. Yeah. So like
nice
something
mute
like
by me.
Was it? Yeah. Good mute. Right when you had the name correct.
Yeah.
A big question for me, and this is where I think this is again just a mistake from Nico, because this system is not snap your fingers and you're ready to do it well, but also leaving a different system to play in this system. This is a fun system. Now it was more fun like before last year. They kind of made it not as fun. They were slow and they ran the ball. Like it wasn't at all what we saw 2 years earlier with Hendon Hooker when it was lightning fast and it was just thrown all over the yard. But it can be that.
Yeah.
But so here, let me give you an example of a quarterback who I think, like if I'm the Vols, I'd be looking at all kinds of quarterbacks in the Big Ten and the Big 12. So Aiden Childs from Michigan State is a very talented young quarterback who throws a lot of picks, but he also, if you watch film of him, his arm talent's insane. He's a tremendous athlete. He makes too many mistakes. He was a redshirt freshman last year, like Nico. His second year coming out. I think he was the 7th QB in that class. Nico was whatever he was. He 1 or 2 or whatever.
Depending on the ranking, yeah.
Yeah, depending on the ranking. So there's someone who, like if I'm Tennessee, like Avery Johnson's a guy I'd look at. I'd look at Aiden Childs. if you're Aiden Childs, you are in at that. That's Jonathan Smith, who's at Oregon State. That is a straight up like Niners pro style hard play action, run the ball, 2 tight ends offense.
Yep.
Which you could argue like that's more comparable to the NFL, like right, like that's more of a translation. You're under center a ton, things like that. But again, all that stuff doesn't matter as much in the NFL. That used to be made a big deal. But the Brile system is different, and we're still waiting for someone from the Brile system, which is Heupel's offense, to actually become a difference-making quarterback in the NFL. I'm not saying the system is why it hasn't happened, but I also think if you're a quarterback looking at them, I'm like, man, how come nobody has worked out yet? I still believe Hendon Hooker could,
Well,
as a GB Joe, I believe that. But I just there's another part of the discussion you get into. If you're that kid, you would be going from a totally different offense to this one, and it's hard to just snap your fingers and be ready to play in it.
I think it's hard to be ready to play in it. Now, Hendon Hooker did it. Now, granted, he transferred in January,
right,
and this would be a transfer in April. So you're behind
a
the
little
eight ball
bit more
there,
time. And he was
for
older.
a few months. Now, again, Hendon Hooker transferred to Tennessee while Jeremy Pruitt was still a coach, which people forget about.
He transferred to play in that Jared Garantano offense.
Yeah, and then Heupel and all the stuff with Pruitt went down. He got fired, and then Heupel came in and he stayed. When good thing he did.
Yeah,
Josh Heupel. But like, I think people are making a little bit too much of like, well, there's no way they could go get a transfer quarterback and learn the offense. They can learn the offense.
Yeah.
But like, how effectively can you run it? I bring up Hooker. Like, I think it's pretty clear Milton was not quite ready to run it when he transferred at the start. At least not as ready as Hooker was.
Yeah.
There.
So,
So,
he just wasn't as good.
He wasn't as good, but I don't think he was as ready to run the offense either. So, like, I think they could find a quarterback that by the time, the first game comes around will be able to run the offense. But you are talking about, at this point, it's April the 15th. I mean, by the time you get them in there, spring ball's over. So it's basically fall camp is when you're starting all that stuff.
Yeah. So, no, I'm with you. I think that you can definitely do it. I think it's if you have a system that's a little bit has some concepts that are similar, there's a lot of offenses that do share a lot of concepts then it might be better, a better transition. But it's like, if you're a candidate looking at it, what's the discussion? You know what I mean?
Right.
Because again, one, it hasn't been as wide open, as fun, as productive for a quarterback. Everybody's bringing up Nico's numbers from last year, which is fine. How few touchdown passes, how few he had against top, and that's all fine. Those are things to bring up. But I mean, that's also because that's how they chose to play, Yeah. So how does that, is that as simple as he just didn't trust Nico enough? I mean, look, Dylan Sampson was a great player. So it makes sense to do things that emphasize your best players. But it'd be interesting. I'd really be interested to hear how some of these other quarterbacks out there who are inevitably looking at this think about the system.
Well, and it's 2 years in a row with Milton and Iamaleava last year where the passing offense was not what you wanted it to be. Now, again, the bar for that was pretty high with Hooker.
Yes.
So there is some middle ground there. But I think in both cases, it was on the lower end of what the hopes were heading into the seasons there. So what does that mean? Is that, one question we may end up ultimately getting back to is like, good Lord, was Hendon Hooker like just the elevator of this tenure with Josh Heupel? I don't know. We'll see. But I mean, they did make the college football playoff last year playing the way that they played. Could you end up getting better quarterback play if you're Tennessee out of all this in the transfer portal? I don't know. I don't know what the answer to that is. But if you did, man, what a development that would be.
I mean, Avery Johnson, I'm a big fan of his.
He's pretty good. 615-737-1025. Our phone number, 615-737-1025. More thoughts on this? How attractive do you think the Tennessee quarterback opening is? We'll have more on that coming up next. More to get to on the Nico front as well. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Preds fans, don't miss Smashville Live tonight, the final edition of Smashville Live of the season at Brewhouse 100 in Bellevue at 6 o'clock. See your Preds star players up close and personal. Your chance to get autographs and pictures as well. Luke Evangelista and Matthew Wood on the program tonight. That's tonight at Brewhouse 100 in Bellevue. Old Vange took a
I was going to say, is he going to be wearing the bubble?
took a puck to the face last night and scored a goal after that. So we'll see if he's got some repair work out there today.
Puck to the face, scored a goals, or something else he did that we can make it like the Luke Evangelista hat trick.
He like threw somebody a puck over the glass in warm-ups. I don't know. Does that count?
Okay. Sure.
There you go.
Mute myself.
He was unable to speak to the media after, though. He had to go get some dental work. So that's always fun.
That would make things a little difficult.
Guys, Luke Evangelista's mouth's falling apart. He's not going to be able to talk to you tonight.
Might have to have a pinch hitter tonight. We'll have to see.
We'll see what happens on that front. But I think he'd probably be good to go by tonight. So we'll see what happens.
Check it out
on that front. By the way, Robby and Rexrode brought to you by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. We got one texture that says, Heupel's system sucks. I can't stand seeing our wide receivers 2 feet from the sideline and running flies / such a low percentage pass play.
Oh, how the table turns. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I like this offense a lot, but obviously we have seen the highs of 2022 when it was incredible, and then the last 2 years they've kind of made it boring.
Yeah.
So is it the quarterback, the offensive line, the receivers, the offensive coordinator, who's now a head coach the last 2 years? Is it defense is figuring out some answers? Probably
combination of everything.
Some of all of that. But I think probably quarterback. I mean, I think last year there were games like the Oklahoma game, to me, no question. There were games where I think Josh Heupel called games that were because he just I don't know if it didn't trust. Is that too strong? He was a little bit hesitant to let Nico let it rip.
Yeah. I think that's fair. Now, what does that mean for this year, depending on the quarterback they get? Because, look, I said before any of the Nico stuff went down, we talked about this in the immediate aftermath of their loss to Ohio State in the college football playoff. You know, they had a good season last year. They got to the college football playoff. They run the ball exceptionally well, and they've run the ball exceptionally well basically since the moment Heupel walked in the door up there. So people don't talk about that part of the offense a lot, but they run the ball really well. I think that there's got to be some adjustments with what they do offensively as they move forward. And we talked about that. Like, you know, Joey Halsley, to me, this is a big year for him. Like you gotta be a part of some answers here that get the passing game going. And did that just become a whole lot harder losing your starting quarterback in the spring? Potentially, yeah. Like depending on what you do here in the portal, yeah, that may have just gotten a whole lot more difficult. So
I mean, his entire life has been built around like making Nico great, and,
yeah.
And now it's like, oh, never mind,
right? So I don't know, maybe that loss when it happened, and that maybe they're not able to find a quarterback that they love in the portal. Maybe that's going to be too much to overcome. I got more to say on that front here in just a few minutes. But regardless of who the quarterback is, we've talked about this. Like they need to get better with what they're doing in the passing game on the offensive side of the ball. And some of that's probably as simple as quarterback plays got to improve. I do think some of that is Halsley, Heupel taking a look at what they're doing in the passing game and making some adjustments there and trying to design some things that get people open in the middle of the field better than they've been able to do the last couple of years.
Yeah, it's like so much of it is like just totally ignoring, because yes, as the texter said, you got the wide splits, you got the choice routes, right? And that's always a part of the offense. So you're reading coverage, and you're either running the comeback or you're running the go, and then the quarterback and the receiver have to read it together. It's like, I mean, that's a fundamental aspect of the offense, but there's a lot more to it as well. And again, go watch Hendon Hooker. He was throwing the ball to tight ends over the middle of the field. He's throwing the ball all over the place, and they were basically unstoppable for most of that year. And it hasn't looked anything like that the last 2 years.
Caleb says, I despise that excuse of not trusting the quarterback. They haven't shown any of the big play design since Golish left. It's like it's a totally different playbook. This from Caleb on the text line.
Well, they threw plenty of deep shots last year. They didn't hit enough of them. They threw the deep ball.
I don't think the playbook is all that different. I think they don't have Jalen Hyatt running out there. Like the guy won the Bolitnikoff. It's a pretty big deal.
The
Like,
the receiving core is definitely a problem last year.
Yeah, I mean, there's that combination of Hooker and Hyatt. I mean, look, go watch the Alabama game. They could not stop it. They knew what was coming, could not stop it, and they haven't had that the last few years. So hopefully you have that. Like now Mike Matthews is a different kind of receiver than Jalen Hyatt was, but like, can you get a high level receiver that gives you more of that? That was kind of the big hope of the offense this year, that Nico takes a step and Matthews turns into that guy.
Right.
Well, now we'll see what they do at quarterback and whether or not Matthews can turn into that guy.
Well, we also look, there is some bad luck too. You see Dante Thornton, TD's talking about him. Like the NFL people are like, man, this guy can run, and he can't. He could. He was super fast. He was to me, and we saw it some here and there, but to me, he was that Hyatt replacement of just he's just going to outrun coverage.
Caleb says he's talking about the design of the play, fellas. Come on. Do you think that they've changed their design? Like, do you think that they're like, oh, wait, all this worked in 2022, so let's just not do it anymore? Like, do you really think that?
Yeah.
Let's be smarter about this discussion, please.
Yeah, I mean, like, look, I understand. Like, I do think that Golish was a good OC, so I think that there was some stuff in game plan stuff
and
and
timing
all that.
and all that.
Yeah. Like that's different. It's fallen off.
But it's not like they've just been like, well,
Yeah.
let's change it.
Yeah, I mean, like
it's just not smart.
No, it is like Kirby Smart. The way he described it, I thought was really good. It's like, I mean, it is kind of like when you play a wishbone team or whatever sort of veer option team, you know, like or triple option, whatever it is. They have they have a foundation of what it is that they do over and over again, and that's the same thing with this. You know, like that, those deep choice things and the wide splits. One side is go, one side doesn't go. All that stuff, like that's every year, all the time with this. But the other stuff, again, weaving it in, making it all work together, that is certainly not good enough. And I don't know. I have to look at Halsley after Golish and think that there's something there. And a lot of people in the text line are also talking about Glenn Ellerby, the offensive line. And look, offensive line development has definitely been problematic. It's not good.
Well, they got in the portal and addressed some needs on the offensive line this year. You know, apparently, I guess Lance Hurd was hurt most of last year, and apparently he's all good to go now. So maybe you can expect a big uptick there. You know, Adam Sparks brought up David Sanders yesterday. It was another 5-star recruit here on the offensive line. Is how big of a factor is he going to be as a true freshman? I have no idea.
Yeah,
but we'll see.
Yeah, he's going to start. I'm sure he'll help, but. Yeah, hoping for a true freshman offensive lineman in the SEC is going to dominate. Yeah,
it's hard to get there.
Rein it in a little bit.
But, like, can he be decent?
Yeah. That would still be fine.
Yeah. Well, and here's another thing. Like, Nico obviously didn't work out the way that they wanted to. They didn't foresee this coming. Who knows what sort of a player he would have been on the offense this year. But he did not live up to his quote-unquote 5-star billing last year. They need one of these 5 stars to hit. Like they need a Matthews or a Saint. I mean, they need both of them to hit.
Yeah.
But you got to get your 5 star. When you get those guys in, they got to be players for you. And we'll see if they can do that this year.
The last Tennessee 5-star that was actually like a star.
Oh God, I don't even know. I'd have to think back through the recruiting rankings.
Help us out, text line, because
they haven't had a ton.
They haven't had a lot of them anyway. Yeah, they haven't had they haven't been raking in 5 stars left and right. But yeah, it's like when you it's here and there, you get, man, you really need to hit some. Yeah,
I mean you got to find a way to get those guys to be huge difference makers for you. Hey, look, can you even quarterback, right? Like Merklinger's a 4-star. He may end up being a great player. Like you need great players wherever you can get them. Like James Pierce wasn't a 5-star. He's a pretty good player for them. And apparently just overcoming the ability to overcome his lack of attitude out there. Unbelievable job by Heupel and this coaching staff. Get him to step on the field according to the way NFL teams feel about him. So
there you go.
We'll see what happens. 615-737-1025, our phone number. We got the Rob rant coming up next. Chris Vannini from The Athletic will be with us at 8 o'clock. We'll get into all the Nico Tennessee stuff with him. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Don't make me angry.
Sometimes you have to tell someone to pound sand.
You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
This is the Rob Rant. Now on Robby and Rexrode.
I heard the morning show play this, and they're like, oh, God, college football's so broken. There you go.
More than once when I was in San Antonio, I corrected people who called Texas UT.
Joe's like, go ask Nick Saban if the system's broken.
I mean, this is recruiting propaganda, you must be from Tennessee.
I hate you, Josh Heupel. Texas isn't a state without the Volunteers making sure that that Texas is a state.
So have some of that.
Yeah, I mean, you can't be UT. I'm sorry, Texas.
If Nico murdered somebody, would he be charged as a juvenile or would he be charged as an adult?
Open up the doors and turn it. It is that time of the day. Time for the Rob Rant.
Ian, you're trying to get me to start yelling in the middle of Rob's rant? It's working.
Just spur some stuff here.
The look on Ian's face in there. He's just that mashup. He's just so proud of it.
Evil genius.
Good stuff there. All right, so I want to speak to Vols fans today because it's been an interesting weekend for you all, and I understand that. And there's a lot of people galvanized around the coaching staff right now, and I get it, and that's all fun, and I like it, so that's good. What is very interesting about this is how we have now, in the span of one weekend, gotten to the discussion with some of all Twitter. And I fully recognize that when you have a place as big as the Vols fan base and Vol Twitter specifically, that you're going to run into basically every different kind of opinion you can possibly think of out there. So I get that. Well, now with some of Vol Twitter, we've gone from, a week and a half ago, or in some cases less than that, going back to the Pete Nakos report when the Nico stuff originally started of, these guys at 0-3 are idiots. Nico's our guy. We've gone from that to now on Tuesday of the following week, there's no possible way that Jake Merklinger is not going to be an All-American this year for Josh Heupel and Tennessee. Like, they have been sleeping on Jake Merklinger for too long. There's too much Jake Merklinger disrespect out there, and there's no way that he's not going to be a great player. Look, I think Merklinger, he's a 4-star recruit, as Gentry pointed out earlier. Like, he's got a chance to be a good player. He may be ready now. I have no idea. Like, Heupel may get through the evaluation here and say, you know what? We took a look in the portal, and there were some guys out there that were intriguing, but we just brought in somebody to be Merklinger's backup because we feel good about Merklinger being the starting quarterback. Who knows? That may be the way they end up going here. I would like to point out, though, that the guy who all of Vol Twitter now is convinced sucked and wasn't a good player in Nico Iamaleava was going to be the starting quarterback for the Tennessee Volunteers this year over Jake Merklinger before he left. So if you don't think Nico is any good and you think that he all of a sudden is just terrible and you think Merklinger is some stud, like, what does that tell you about what Josh Heupel thought of the quarterback room there? Because I got news for you. Nico is going to be the starting quarterback this year for the Vols. So, like, this idea that it's like, we will have no disrespect for Jake Merklinger, who they're now affectionately referring to as Merkslinger, which I love it.
I was going to say.
That's kind of awesome. That's a pretty good nickname. But, like, I think we need to probably brace ourselves, Joe, for the possibility that maybe Jake Merklinger isn't quite ready to play quarterback yet. Maybe he's not ready to be the starter, which I think you're about to see evidenced when Heupel goes out and gets a starting quarterback in the portal. That's just me.
How dare you? How dare you even suggest that as a possibility? The Merc Slinger is ready.
Now, Nico sucks.
Yeah. Jake was going to take his job anyway. Yeah. Duh.
Really? Because I don't think that's how that was going to go down.
People didn't realize.
Yeah.
They were starting to split the reps, and we didn't even know.
Like, it's just a thing in sports. We've always got to take it just a step too far. Like, if you're a Tennessee fan that says, you know what? Maybe Jake Merklinger will be good. I'm interested to see what happens. I can live with that. Maybe. He might be good. I have no idea. But, like, it's now gone, we'll be fine. Jake Merklinger's there. They're like, we're guaranteed. College football playoff, we're back, baby. We got Jake Merklinger. It's like, you mean the guy who wasn't going to be the starting quarterback for Tennessee until 3 days ago? Cool. Awesome.
Yeah, well, here a texter says, Robby, that's just UT in general. Most of them are beyond delusional, but then says you are an exception.
Thank you.
Most? I don't know about most.
Yeah, I don't think it's most. I do think there are some loud folks out there.
I mean, it's like Karski was
80%. 80% go SEC.
like, okay, it might not be quite that bad. But yeah, the backup quarterback is already the most popular person, right? And then you get the backup quarterback who now is replacing the starter who jilted you.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a pretty powerful thing.
No, he's already like paid man. It's
Yeah.
like, wow. That he got a lot better over the course of 3 days here, didn't he?
We had no idea.
We had no clue. And again, like Jake Merklinger's a redshirt freshman. Like he may end up being good. But this idea that it's just like, don't worry, guys. We got Jake Merklinger now as quarterback. It's like, really? Well, where was that energy 2 days ago?
All is well. I do love Merc Slinger, though.
Merc Slinger's a good,
was
great
that Staples who came up
I
with
think
that?
Staples is the first person I saw do that.
I think Staples gets credit.
Merc
for that.
Slinger is good.
Got a credit on 3 again.
Yeah.
Real quick, to follow up, Gentry texted me Darnell Wright, 5-star.
Yes.
So that's probably the most recent. And then obviously Trey Smith, some people have pointed out.
We were trying to figure out like the last skill player.
So it might be Jalen Hurd, right?
Jalen Hurt's probably the guy.
Is the last skill player 5-star
who was recruited by them.
Yeah. And
because
he
wasn't
really good in 15 and
like Brew McCoy was a
16.
5-star, right? But he wasn't recruited by
That's true.
Tennessee.
He was a 5-star at
Right.
USC, right?
Yeah.
Real quick, by the way, if we have time, just to quickly deal with the stuff that Ian played there at the beginning, which as I sat at the driver services center, I had to listen to Jared and his made up fantasy world. First of all, the whole he just completely dismisses the dad in this situation, and he does this. Well, what if he was charged? Look, Jared, if Nico got a DUI or committed a crime, do you think that anybody out here would be saying, "Well, that's really Nick"? It's really his dad. No, I mean, this is the decision was his dad's. So if this was a football movie, Nico would have said on Friday, "No, Dad, I love the Vols and I'm staying with the Vols." But it's not a football movie. He did what his dad said. So you can believe people who actually know the situation or not.
Yeah.
I know you prefer to just be ignorant and just spout off with things that you don't know about. And then also, did you hear, Robbie? Was everybody saying this means college football is broken? Is that what the reaction to this was?
I don't think we ever even said that.
Not one time.
Yeah.
The system needs to be fixed. Most people would agree. Like the constant movement, we talk about that all the time. If anything, the reaction to this is, oh, wow, here's one. Yeah. This is a good development. I mean, like the complete ignorance on the subject is really problematic,
right.
Jared.
And by the way, we got people texting in that Mike Matthews is a 5-star.
Right, that's what we're talking about.
We're talking about 5 stars. When's the last 5? Like the 5 stars who have lived up to the billing. Right. We'll see. Matthews might.
We're trying to see if he'll do it. Yeah, he could be the guy, but when's the last time it happened?
615-737-1025. Our phone number, 615-737-1025. Chris Vannini from The Athletic will be with us coming up next. We'll get his thoughts on all the craziness that's gone down with Nico Iamaleava and Tennessee. We will get back into the Titans in the 8 o'clock hour as well. All that coming up. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Final hour, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, brought to you by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar here with you on this Tuesday morning. Talking a little college football, the Vols, and the Nico Iamaleava situation. And to help us talk about that, we head to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. And welcome in our friend Chris Vannini, who covers college football for The Athletic. Chris, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well. Good to be here.
Good to have you with us. So, Chris, let's just start on the Nico front here. Obviously, when you look at his camp around him, it just looks like some really bad advising from their standpoint to him on the outside looking in. What do you make of the decision by the Iamaleava circle that has led to this point of where at the moment it kind of seems like he's out there floating in the wind?
The whole thing was so interesting to me, specifically because it was Iamaleava and not just some other player, because Nico changed the game the first time around when he signed that big NIL deal in high school. And then the state attorney general there sued the NCAA over it and changed NCAA rules. He was one of the first players, and by extension his family, one of the first groups that understood how much a top high school recruit was really worth and how much they could get for it. And that changed a lot of the ways people do recruiting, the amount of money players make. And so he changed the game once again here for players, but probably in a bad way, or in a way that gives more leverage back to the schools, because pretty much nobody was on his side for this point. This wasn't like, something that wasn't given to him or anything. He had signed a big contract and suddenly he wants more and it goes public. So I think you've seen some coaches speak out against it elsewhere already, and that'll ultimately be part of his legacy, just as the first NIL deal was. Even though he still has a lot of football still to play, he's changed college football twice already.
Yeah, and I know, Chris, we've had some, coworkers who did a good story talking about like the market for him, talking to various people around the sport, about what they think the market would be for him. But I've been kind of looking around. It's like, man, I just don't see an obvious spot. We were talking earlier in the show, like maybe it's like whoever the Vols end up lifting from someone, then they go get Nico. But like, is there anything that stands out to you as like a potential good opportunity? Like North Carolina apparently not interested, as like an actual opportunity where he could start for a good team this year?
Well, at the Power 4 level, not particularly. But again, like you said, it may depend if Tennessee pulls somebody from somewhere else. And I think that will be an important thing to keep an eye on. But you never know. I mean, all it takes is one school to really feel like they need to do something here with him and give him some amount of money. As our colleagues wrote, a lot of GMs and personnel people were saying, he's probably worth more like $1 to $1.5 million. But it's possible someone gives him 3. If you have one school that likes him and another school that creates a bidding situation, you never know. So it's impossible to predict right now. It sounds like North Carolina is likely to take Gio Lopez from South Alabama, who is probably not as good a quarterback as Nico, but probably a lot less expensive. And I think that how that factors into all of this is the situation too. Nico is walking away from about $2.2-2.5 million. Is there a certain level he's expecting at that next school? I don't know if he's going to get it.
So, Chris, what did you make of the way that Josh Heupel and his staff handled this? They're getting a lot of praise right now, obviously, with kind of drawing a line in the stand. But what did you make of his handling of this specifically, and kind of where he sits now on the other side of this as they go to look for another quarterback?
Well, once it got public, I don't know if there's anything else he could have done, because at that moment, once it went public, the fans sided with him. The fans decided, no, the team is more important than an individual player. And Tennessee had to weigh that. It's possible they don't get a better quarterback in this cycle. It's possible they struggle and go 5-7 or 6-6 or something like that. And if that happens, are you okay with that? Are fans okay with that ultimately? If they let Nico walk and the season was what it was as a result, Tennessee had to weigh that and made the decision that, yes, it is. And this decision by Josh Heupel and everybody else set the tone elsewhere. Because if Tennessee blinks or caves or whatever, or pays up after a discussion goes public, that would have created the domino effect and opened the door for players across the country to do that similarly. Hey, if I go public with my holdout, it's going to help me. And the fact that it didn't help Nico means a lot of schools, like I said earlier, have some leverage this time around where they know the fan base probably won't be on their side. This isn't like an NFL holdout with Jamar Chase and the Bengals or something like that, where the fans love Jamar Chase and they want to pay him. That's not the case here. It's not the case for probably most college football players. And so the decision about Josh Heupel, I know and I'm sure, was lauded by coaches across the country.
Yeah, and then the ones who want more money, which happens all the time, right? And the school agrees, and that quietly happens, and we don't even know about it, right? I mean, that's the thing. Like this is taken care of and doesn't become a public thing if Tennessee didn't feel like it was being extorted unfairly. So, Chris, big picture here. I feel like, we'll spend the next few years saying, so when are we going to get to like contracts and where I think it inevitably has to lead, but obviously we have now this revenue share settlement. We have this clearinghouse and fair market value Deloitte stuff, which just, I don't know, I'm not a big fan of. We do have some contracts that like schools are trying to put some buyout elements in some of these contracts now, but where do you think we're headed here in the next year or two?
It's hard to say. Like, the house settlement is most likely coming, and schools have already had players sign a lot of contracts with the school, multi-year deals, buyouts, and the like. But we've already seen that pushed against, because there was that player from Wisconsin who left Wisconsin and went to Miami outside of the portal window, despite having this house settlement contract. And Wisconsin claims that they own his NIL rights. So something's going to happen there at some point between Miami and Wisconsin. And if it all works out for that player, there basically is no transfer portal at that point window. It's just whenever you want to do something. So it's not like players want to sign it's not like schools want to sign players to 4-year contracts, because if a player doesn't pan out, they want to be able to cut bait too. So that's why you're getting a lot of 1 years or maybe 2 years. It might not be more than that. I'm not exactly sure teams and coaches know what they want yet at this point. But presuming the house settlement goes through, that should help a little bit. I do think the Nico situation might help something happen in Congress, but it takes something going really wrong for Congress to get involved. So it's hard to say. Yes, contracts are coming. Yes, they kind of already exist. Are buyouts enforceable? I don't know. We know that people are going to continue to challenge everything possible. And so the legal problems will not go away. There will just be new problems.
But so that's why like some level of collective bargaining has to be part of it, right? So that now you are participating in the creation of the economic model.
It would be the ideal situation, but you don't need to be employees to collectively bargain.
Right.
But who's going to do that on behalf of the players? Because players are in and out so quickly. They're changing schools now every year. It's such a transient sport. It's why I personally don't think unionization will happen, because it's so difficult. There's 130 teams with 80 plus players. It's really hard to figure that out. It would take something like lawyers and some other people and all the players just agreeing to go along with it. But if you're a player right now, if you're a G5 player, it's the best time to be a great G5 player, because somebody will be willing to give you a bunch of money at the P4 level. It's a pretty good situation for players right now. Technically, they may not be making the best decisions, but they can do pretty much whatever they want. And so you're going to have to create something that they would want to sign into too.
I think that we should I think that we should just make Diego Pavia a lifelong student, and he can be the union head for like the next 20 years. That's Vandy will take him. Vandy will take him as quarterback for the next decade,
I'm sure they would. Chris, last thing for you here. now Tennessee's got a hole to fill at quarterback. And, they've got 2 scholarship quarterbacks on their roster, but Heupel said he's going in the portal, and I would assume he's going in the portal to try to land a starter here. So as we sit here today on April the 15th with the spring portal opening up, how challenging do you think it's going to be for him to find a high-level starting quarterback in the portal? And is there anybody that really comes to mind on that front for you?
Well, I don't want to say any names right now because nobody is in the portal, and that would just be really speculating and putting players in a bad spot. But the difficulty of it all for Tennessee and for Nico is that it's spring practice is over. It's not like whoever you get's going to be able to come in, go through spring, get to know everybody, and then you feel good about it.
Right.
You're just going to come in essentially in fall camp. And that's the same thing with Nico. It's like, well, if we went through spring with our team, we feel pretty good about where we're at. Do we need to bring in Nico and all the questions that could set up? And it's the same thing for Tennessee. They'll make big swings. They'll put out big money for somebody. Probably the same, if not a little bit more than they were paying Nico. But can you convince a kid to do that after he's already gone through so much, after he's already presumably said he's going to stay there in the previous portal window? It's just like coaches. It's a lot harder to hire coaches after signing day because coaches are like, man, I wouldn't want to leave my guys now. And I think you'll have a good amount of quarterbacks who don't want to leave their teams now. Now, Tennessee is a very appealing place. Got some good wide receivers. They just made the playoff. Can offer a lot of money. You can find somebody, but it's a lot harder now than it would have been in the winter. And that's the thing about the spring portal is that it's so late in the process. Usually why you don't see many big names move, but here we are.
Here we are, indeed. Absolutely crazy stuff this weekend. Chris, great stuff, man. Really appreciate you taking time to be with us. Appreciate your perspective as always, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yep, thanks for having me.
Chris Vannini from The Athletic, our guest on Robby and Rexrode. We'll react to what Chris had to say, more of your thoughts to get to on the Vols. We will get into the Titans and another Kuiper mock draft later this hour as well.
I got something else we got to get into. We got some emails about Belichick's girlfriend. Oh, my goodness, this is good.
Really? Okay, we'll get into all that. Robby and Rexrode. Kind of scared. 102.5, 106.3 the game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. We are live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. I got some tickets to give away to see Cake at the Ascend Amphitheater coming up this Saturday night. Be caller number 4, 615-737-1025. Caller 4 will win a pair of tickets to see Cake at the Ascend Amphitheater coming up this Saturday night.
I'll see you there.
Rexrode will be there.
Rolling in cake.
Maybe so.
Maybe more than one way.
Maybe so. We'll see what happens on Saturday night. Joe, so I'm almost afraid to ask, but you brought up Bill Belichick and some emails with his girlfriend. So what have we uncovered here at the Athletic?
Yeah, so we had my coworker and my favorite slot receiver when we destroyed the University of Michigan newspaper alumni team, Chris Vannini. Great slot receiver, caught a couple touchdown passes from my golden arm in that destructive victory of the Blue. Now we transition to Matt Baker at the Athletic, who I knew he was working on this story. This is pretty good stuff, man. So here's the headline. Headline, quote, how involved is Bill Belichick's girlfriend at UNC? New emails show a glimpse inside her role. So let me read. So he used open records, FOIA, Freedom of Information Act, to get these emails, which, hey, Bill, unlike the NFL, in college football, you work at a public university, so we can get this stuff. Be aware. Head on a swivel, buddy. So here's one of her emails from December. It says, quote, though Steve Belichick is in fact Bill's son, he should be depicted and represented as his own established, credible entity as opposed to an extension of Bill.
Oh.
It can easily be misinterpreted that Steve is simply benefiting from nepotism, but that is not the case. Steve was fortunate to have learned offensive football strategy from the greatest defensive mind of all time. He has earned his position due to his performance and output.
Okay.
Also, there's a lot of stuff like that. Promote, back and forth. Yes, of course, we'll promote him as. She also asked that they don't have pictures of them together, which she said the school shouldn't use images of Steve and Bill Belichick together to prevent, quote, visual prompts that could fuel accusations of nepotism.
Okay.
So there you go. There's nothing, however, found here, emails about the youngest son, Brian, who is the Tar Heels DB. I didn't even realize there was another young Belichick who's also coaching with Tar Heels.
They're not worried about nepotism with Brian. Okay.
Yeah,
Good
I
enough.
guess so. I guess that's like, what can you do, right? Steve has gone on his own.
He has.
So,
He has.
also, there's some, there's some stuff about. She said in February, quote, is anyone monitoring the North Carolina football page for slanderous commentary and subsequently deleting it / blocking users that are harassing Bill in the comments?
Mm.
And apparently, he then followed up, Bill did, and said, quote, I cannot believe UNC would support my being called a predator. and on and on. So, hey, Jordan Hudson is kind of running things over there.
Apparently so. Jeez. That's going to be a total disaster, isn't it?
I don't know. I'm so intrigued. It's going to be a huge story. College football, it's just, we had the Dion thing, which has worked out better than I thought it would, by the way. I mean, it hasn't been amazing. By the way, they're like retiring Shador's jersey. Like,
I saw that.
What? But no Shiloh?
No.
I mean, retiring Travis Hunter's jersey at some point, I would agree with. He won the Heisman.
Yeah.
Maybe not like 2 seconds after he leaves.
Yeah.
That's kind of weird.
He hasn't even been drafted yet.
Right. But yeah, at some point, but yeah, retiring Shador Sanders' jersey is what? But
as
so
I
we had
pointed out
that
yesterday, and I know Florida doesn't really do this, but Tim Tebow's jersey's not retired, and Shador Sanders is. So
is that right?
Stew on that for a minute.
Tim
yeah.
Tebow.
I mean, Richardson wore 15. Graham Mertz wore 15. They're just throwing that number around. Apparently anybody that plays quarterback for Florida, other than DJ Lag.
Do they do the thing where, like, because some places retire the jersey, but the number is still in circulation?
I don't think
it's not even that.
Retire anything.
Wow.
Yeah.
But anyway, with Belichick, I don't know. I sometimes I'm like, this is absolutely a bleep show, and it's going to be bad. But he is a good coach, obviously. They've got funding. They've got like a big apparatus, going on there. They've got the I mean, I don't know. I could see it going. It's probably going to be what it'll probably be. It's probably something like Dion, which is like they'll go 8-4. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if it's like bad, oh my goodness.
I cannot believe
they
UNC,
are done communicating via email. I'll tell you that.
I cannot believe UNC would support my being called a predator. Is an email uncovered here. All right.
Bye, Bill.
Thank you, Bill.
And by the way, UNC said, no, we do not support that.
By the way, just in case you're wondering,
we do not support that. But, thanks for, showing up to coach our team and bringing along your 24-year-old girlfriend.
How old is he?
70. Is he 76?
72.
How old is Bill Belichick? I'm sure it's in here.
I think he's 73-ish.
Okay. Well, how old is she again?
24.
Okay. Just checking.
Yeah, 72. 72 and 24. So it's not a full 50
Hey, it's
years.
his birthday tomorrow.
Oh, really?
Bill's birthday's tomorrow.
So it'll be a 49 years. It will not be a 50-year split. It will not quite be 50 years.
Yeah.
I mean, how many,
did you ever go find those
jokes has Vrabel made about this?
Did you ever go find those pictures I told you about of those two on the beach together? And
you sent it to me, didn't you?
Yeah. It's good stuff.
It was unsettling. Really bothered me. I mean, it was seriously I think of being on the beach with my children when they were very young.
I did. Yeah. I did say, wow, it's a grandfather or granddaughter. How about that? I did. There's all these videos coming out from North Carolina spring practice where she's like running around. I mean, clearly she's involved with the football program here. So she's like running around doing stuff. And some of the commentary on social media about it was like, do you remember when Belichick was with the Patriots and threw this big fit because Tom Brady wanted to have his own personal trainer around and he wanted no part of that? And yet here he is in college football with his 24-year-old girlfriend running around while guys are over here doing the cone drill at practice. Like, what's going on over here?
That's a fair comparison to bring up. I got to say. Joe in the text said, Joe, shouldn't the Predators seize the moment and invite Bill Belichick and his girlfriend to a game next season? It seems like we miss an opportunity. I think so. Where's Sean Henry? Sean, are you listening?
Yeah.
Make it happen.
Maybe so. Hey, by the way,
they're not that far away.
George Kittle and Brock Purdy at the Predators game last night.
Kittle's always there.
Yeah,
brought Brock. Yeah.
He brought Brock.
Yeah.
Brock's about to get paid a lot of money, I think. So.
Yeah, I think so. That's cool.
Yeah. Well,
they saw his buddy destroy the ice.
You think
delay the game?
Yeah. Do you think Bill Belichick is sending emails today of like, hey, how did they get our emails? Wait a minute. How did the Athletic acquire these emails?
Here's an email expressing my outrage that they got our emails.
Block.
What can we?
He's on the InstaFace now.
Who do we need to kill at the Athletic? Signed, Bill Belichick.
615-737-1025, our phone number. That was unexpected today. Come up with one of those.
Good stuff.
We'll get into the Titans, some of the latest mock draft revelations from Mel Kiper coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
obviously there has to be some level of interest, right? Because you're not scheduling a private workout in Boulder, Colorado after you spent all the time that you have with Shedeur Sanders all year long. They've been at his games all year long. They've been tracking him all year long. They met with him. He's come to New York. They're going there. They're at the pro day. Like, there's been a ton of time invested in Shedeur Sanders. And so this is one final private workout to help them make a decision about whether or not they will then go ahead and draft him or not. And I mean, that's the only way to interpret it, right? Like, you're not scheduling that private workout 1 week before the draft in Boulder because you have no interest, right? It's not some smokescreen all of a sudden.
That was Adam Schefter earlier today reacting to the news that the Giants are working out Shedeur Sanders one more time in Boulder. That's coming up this Thursday. We're late in the game here, Joe. Draft's next week, but one more workout from Shedeur Sanders' point of view for the New York Giants. Interesting decision there. You know, Tannenbaum put this out there earlier. So there, you know, that news came out, and Mike Tannenbaum, friend of the show and former NFL general manager, says about you know, the decision to have another private workout this late in the game with Shedeur Sanders by the Giants. Quote, when this happens so late in the process, either there's a big disagreement in their building on their evaluation or they're reacting to new information. Now, I don't know what new information they would be getting at this point in the draft, but that's what Tannenbaum says, Joe. Your thoughts?
Well, my thought is maybe the Giants listen to this program, and you know, one of us has been saying Shedeur's better prospect than Cam Ward, so they're like, you know what?
One of us has.
Rather than try to trade up and worry about Cam, let's just stick and let's just get our QB of the future right here at 3, or maybe. I mean, I generally agree with what Schefter said. They're like, man, this is a little much for a smokescreen. But, you know, maybe they hope someone sees that they did this and like, okay, we have to, like, we've got to try to get in there. But that's the thing. Yeah, but I mean, if they loved him that much, you're not going to get in there anyway. Yeah. You're not going to. And so, you know, I got to take it seriously.
I would too. I mean, it's interesting. You typically don't see the workouts like a week before the draft. It's like, hey, we're making this decision next week, so let's work you out again.
Yeah.
I mean,
can you come run the 40 again?
Yeah, it's very interesting. So
Shuttle
we'll see exactly what that means for Shedeur Sanders and the New York Giants. They're flashing a graphic up on ESPN right now. So apparently the betting odds of the second quarterback to be selected in the draft on March the 25th, Shedeur Sanders was minus 1,600. Today, he's minus 225. Jackson Dart went from plus 700 to plus 160.
Okay.
In a couple of weeks there. That's interesting.
That's interesting.
A heck of a jump in the betting odds.
That is. So maybe Dart becomes, maybe Dart becomes QB2 in this draft.
No,
I think if it doesn't happen for Shedeur, pretty early, it could be a bit.
It could be. Now, keep in mind, I think back to the Will Levis draft, and there's all the stuff on Reddit. Like, hey, Will Levis could go number 1, and people kept reacting to all that, and it influenced the betting odds. Like, there was a time where I don't know if Will Levis was the favorite to go number 1 overall, but he moved up like sharply to go number 1 overall. And then, of course, we know what happened. He did not go in the first round.
Like, what at that moment, because obviously Bryce went 1. Like, at that moment, what could you have gotten for Bryce? Nah, I'd like to know. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Could have made some cash.
Yeah. But to your point, weird things can affect these things for sure.
So
I don't know that Vegas really knows who's picking who here. I know Vegas knows. Yeah. Vegas knows. They actually don't know a lot of stuff.
So Field Yates and Mel Kiper have come out with a 3-round mock draft. So we are mercifully, Joe, getting to the end of mock draft season here. But it is interesting for the Titans standpoint from this standpoint. Now, look, Field Yates, spoiler alert, goes Cam Ward, number 1 overall to the Titans. So what they do here is they alternate picks. So like Field Yates picks 1, and then Mel Kiper picks the next team. So that's what they do throughout this whole thing. So no surprise, Cam Ward going at number 1 for the Titans with Field Yates as the selection. It gets back around to the Titans, obviously, at pick number 35. And we've been wondering for weeks, like, who is going to be available at 35 that the Titans are going to have to make the decision of, all right, do we want to stay here, stick and pick, and take advantage maybe of a player that we really like here at 35, or is the opportunity going to be there where we can trade back, maybe pick up an extra third rounder, get back deeper into the second round, and go that route? Well, right here, they've got Jaden Higgins from Iowa State being available at pick number 35 for the Titans, which is not a huge surprise. I think there's probably a pretty good chance he'll be there. And if the Titans picked him, I'd probably be fine with it. I like him. I think he's a good player. Luther Burden's also on the board here again.
Huh.
And they've got Luther Burden going the next pick to Jacksonville at 36. So the Burden stuff continues to be interesting to me, like how he just keeps falling. By the way, in this draft, they've got James Pierce at 43 to San Francisco.
Not good. Oh, geez. That's fair.
Yeah.
So which of them gave Higgins instead of Burden to the Titans?
It was Field Yates.
Yates did. Okay, that's a weird thing I'd expect Mel to do.
Yeah.
Did he give a reasoning? Or are they just by the second round?
He says the Titans got Cam Ward. Now they must provide him with some legit playmakers beyond Ridley. Higgins brings size, speed, and versatility outside. So maybe the outside part of it.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not gonna pretend that I've watched a lot of Burden in his time at Missouri. I've watched very little of Higgins. I mean, it's arguable. It's just, to me, I really feel like Burden is a late first round player. That if you're available, that you'd be lucky to be able to have him at 35. But I don't know that Higgins isn't the better choice for the Titans. Maybe he is.
Yeah, maybe he is. I mean, they don't have Ted McMillan going in this draft until pick 25.
Wow,
to Houston.
God, that's fair too.
They've
that's
got
fair. Here you go, CJ.
Yeah, they got Matthew Golden, the first receiver off the board, at 12 to Dallas,
which I could see.
And then there's Egbuka coming off at 22 to the Chargers. I mean, the Chargers definitely need a receiver.
So just 3 first-round receivers.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. The consensus on this draft seems to be, yes, you're light in terms of the premium players. It's light. And obviously it's not well regarded in terms of quarterbacks, but it's also packed in that 2, 3, 4 range where it's like you can get players like in the third and even the fourth that like are better than some years at that same spots.
I say only 3
which is
receivers.
why you want to try to somehow get more picks if you can back out of 35
Right.
to me if it's possible.
I say there's only 3 first-round receivers. They do have Travis Hunter at 2, in which Kuiper says he'd play him on offense. So there you go.
Which is why you play him on defense. Just kidding. Everybody loves Mel Kiper. But you do play him on defense.
I was interested to see, Kuiper has been much higher on Shedeur Sanders than most in the draft process here. So I was interested to see where they had Shedeur going here. And if he would I would love to know if Kuiper, basically Field Yates is doing the odd numbers here and Kuiper's doing the even numbers. So Yates gets 1 and 3, Kuiper gets 2 and 4. Like if Kuiper had 3 to the Giants, would he have picked him Sanders to go there? They got Abdul Carter going to the Giants. Field Yates did. And then all the way down at 9 is where Sanders is off the board to the Saints.
To the Saints, yeah.
Who, by the way, we have not discussed over the
No.
weekend. The Derek Carr stuff is fascinating.
Yeah. It sounds
Could miss
like
the entire year.
Could miss the entire year. Seems like it's new news to all of us, but it's something that has been known. It seems by some.
I guess that would make sense why, basically their entire organization was at Cam Ward's pro day, right? It was we got to take a long look at these quarterbacks if there's a possibility that ours cannot play football this year.
Yeah. So if you're them, do you feel good about if Shedeur is who you're looking at, do you feel good about him being there at 9? Giants just worked him out, man. Giants just got him out there.
Yeah, maybe that's who they're trying to smokescreen here. If you're the Giants of, hey, New Orleans, if you like this guy, I need to come make a deal with us because we'll take him.
Yeah, we're going to take him if you don't give us the world.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how that goes. I think we've reached the point with the Titans and really the Browns when you look at all the reporting around it. It kind of feels like the draft starts at 3 with the Giants. It feels like Ward's going 1 and Hunter's going 2. That's what it feels like as we sit here today 9 days out from the NFL draft.
Yeah, 3 is obviously, man, could go a lot of ways. I'm also really interested to see what the Vrabster does.
Yeah.
At 4.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody's got them taking a tackle, but tell you what, man, someone in this first round is going to get a star in this league for many years to come. They're at least like good 4 or 5 years of stardom, and it absolutely inject life into your offense in Ashton Gentry.
Yeah.
He's going to be lightning in this league.
The Atlanta Braves country road trip coming to town and teaming up with the Nashville Predators in 102.5 The Game. Join us at the BetMGM Sports Lounge in Bridgestone Arena tomorrow for a Braves watch party as they take on the Toronto Blue Jays at noon. Be awesome giveaways like a chance to win Braves tickets to the game of your choice every 30 minutes, plus Braves hats, T-shirts, autographed baseballs. First 15 people in the door will win a pair of Preds tickets to tomorrow night's game as well. For more details, visit thegamenashville.com/events. More of your thoughts to get to on the NFL draft front. We'll do that coming up next and wrap things up here on Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. This week's Nashville's best deal is Chiba Hut Toasted Subs. Get half off a $50 gift card now at thegamenashville.com/deals and celebrate 420 the Chiba way on Donaldson Pike. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode.
Sounds like college.
102.5, 106.3 The Game. Brought to you by First Horizon. Big bank muscle, small bank hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get it all. Live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. Home with a $99 yearly Beehive membership with a buzz is always about great service. We are 9 days out from the first round of the NFL draft, Joe. We're getting ever so closer here. And what we presume to be the launching of the Cam Ward era for the Tennessee Titans. By the way, Cam Ward will be in Green Bay attending the draft. So discovered that yesterday. They listed, I think, I want to say they had, was it 17 guys that are going to the NFL, including Jalen Milroe. So see how long he's standing around in Green Bay.
So 16 guys will go in the first round. There's 16 guys who aren't there who will go in the first round. And then there's Jalen Milroe.
Yeah.
Hey, man, I hope he enjoys it. Great cheese curds up there.
I can't wait till somebody takes him at 28th or whatever.
I mean, I would be amazing.
Is there anybody in the back part? I mean, you can obviously people can trade, but is there anybody in the back part of the draft that was like, well, we'll get 2 years ahead of quarterback here and just we'll have our replacement lined up. I'm trying to look.
Is it possible because
Rams?
Is it possible because he is that kind of athlete that someone's like, you know what? Look at what like the Ravens have done with that offense.
Yeah.
With Lamar Jackson, why don't we try the same thing? The problem is Lamar Jackson's a great quarterback all the way around and does things that, you just haven't seen from Jalen Milroe. But I'm just wondering if it's like, why can't we try that model in this league?
Maybe somebody does. Maybe that's why he's at the draft.
I mean, maybe some team told the NFL, hey, man, we're coming to get him. I'm here for it. A couple things we have to figure out, Rob, before the show ends. Ian, we haven't figured out what Ian's rants are going to be called.
Well, what did you throw out there?
Well, someone texted and said disagreeing.
Okay, that's not bad.
But I also said, hey, let's go on a safari rant.
Mm-hmm. The last name could work. Yeah.
Now
he did say the last name could work. He did not say that specific example could work.
Yeah, he's like, the last name.
Yeah, we got to workshop.
Let's work on that.
Yeah.
Also, can you imagine Ian ranting about anything?
No.
Like, have you ever seen Ian get mad about anything?
There was one that popped into my head that I'm going to. I got two kind of.
Oh, he's ready to go.
Okay.
That I've kind of put on the back burner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you just
let
us know.
One sports, one non-sports.
Great.
Well, look, I've seen back in the day Ian do some Predators games in here where he used to get a little fired up. I've seen Ian get fired up.
Yeah, those days when you sit on the board for a 4-hour Stillman and Company or Jared and the GM and then go into a Preds game and you're here till around, 11, and someone likes to just, I'm not going to name names, but yes.
Someone likes to just what?
Prolong things perhaps that maybe don't need prolonging.
Yeah. I've seen Ian get fired up around here. So.
Okay,
it can happen.
Okay, Hal Gill, who are we talking about here? I want to name names.
I don't think it was Hal Gill. I'm comfortable saying that. I don't think it was Hal Gill.
All right, you guys will have to tell me during the break. I also have breaking news, by the way.
Okay.
Congratulations to Nolansville's own Fridays for Nights, Bo Holloway.
Yeah.
Left-hander, top player in the state. He's the number 9 player in the country. He has committed. Congratulations to Vanderbilt. He committed to Vanderbilt. Tennessee, Tony Vitello in hot pursuit of Bo Holloway. LSU and Texas were the other suitors. So big win for Tim Corbin. Now the question, as is often the case here, is he going to get to campus because he will be?
Yeah.
He may just go pro. But big time talent, which is what we produce in Nolansville, Tennessee. We produce big time talent. Okay, so congratulations to Bo.
Yeah.
Great kid and big time pitcher, and congratulations. That's a win. I mean, Vitello, man, they're rolling, and Vitello's program is rolling. It has a championship. I mean, that's a good win for Corbin over Vitello on the recruiting trail in the state of Tennessee.
And Corbin really needs some of these guys to not go pro and actually show up to campus. And go play.
I mean, they still this season again is kind of like they need more power, they need more offense. They're good in pitching. They're a good team. They're ranked 15th, right in that range. Tennessee
Fourth?
top, yeah, third, fourth,
think
fifth,
fourth.
right in there.
Yeah.
So, but that's a good recruiting win.
We
The
got a vote.
Nolensville to Vanderbilt pipeline is strong.
It is strong. We got a vote for Irate Ian from Mike on the text line.
Irate Ian.
Irate Ian.
Good alliteration. Yes.
Yeah, alliteration is key.
Yeah, alliteration is always good. Let's see, Trevor says, having worked with Stilly the Pooh, I'm sure he can come up with something to rant about. That's true.
Yeah.
Well, but again, the fact that he worked with Stilly all this time and he's like, hey, how you guys doing? Everybody good?
Yeah.
Hey, I'm feeling good. I'm Ian. I'm
Really,
happy.
a
I mean, that
testament to his
tells you
character.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know who Ian could really rant about is our in-studio guest tomorrow. I thought Kuharski was a little rough on Ian.
You thought Kuharski's about to get one from Ian last week?
I think that you should save up a little rant because, I mean, let's face it, it's very easy to rant about Kuharski.
Sure. Yeah. There's probably some things we could clarify.
There's probably some things we could really address.
Paul,
You want
let me clarify a couple things for you, Paul. A nice, gentle dismantling of
Paul,
Kuharski.
number one being, you do not do well in physical confrontation.
Well, neither do I. So we'll have to work on that.
You and PK would be interesting.
You would. Got to vote for the Steelers to be the one that land Jalen Milroe in the draft. I don't know. Like,
Just
are you
make
taking
it-
him at 21? I'm probably not. Somebody might.
I mean, the whole Steelers thing, too, by the way. Again, like Charles told us, like it's going to be post-draft, I guess. But
For
still,
Rodgers.
are you comfortable if you're the Steelers that it's going to happen?
Let me ask you this. Like, if Derek Carr can't play, like if you're the Saints, would you want to get involved in that on the Rodgers front?
Would he?
I would probably, if I'm him, I think the Steelers are a more attractive option at that point. Now, I will say the attractiveness about the Saints would probably be that you're playing in the NFC South. It's not a great division, but I don't know. It's just the Derek Carr thing is interesting with the way it's all broken down.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that, but that is worth a thought with the Rodgers. I mean, New Orleans, great jazz, food, drugs. I mean, they got a lot of things that Aaron Rodgers likes. So, I think they have caves. Do they have caves down there? I don't know.
Lots of swamps.
I don't think I can.
More like swamps.
Yeah, Schefter said there's more to this Saints and Carr situation. He's not quite sure what, but there's something else kind of to figure out.
Well, didn't they restructure his contract like a couple months ago? Like, it makes sense that they're.
Yeah, I think they did actually.
Yeah, so I don't know. Like, it's interesting.
It's very interesting. Chip from Mount Juliet. Cheeing. I don't know, man.
Keep them coming on the text line. Keep them coming.
It's worth a
We'll
shot.
Continue to workshop.
Mitch says steaming with Safar.
Okay. I mean, we're getting to the point of maybe too much words. There, but
We're getting to the point where maybe I don't have to read all the texts that come in.
well,
front
I
of my
mean,
face.
I keep them coming. I'm all for the text, the suggestions for what we should call Ian's rant. Now, look forward
I'm just
to it.
excited that Ian has a couple already and
a couple ready to go.
in there. Yeah.
I like it too. Well, we will have Kuharski on the show tomorrow. We'll get into the L'Jarius Sneed stuff with him. His final thoughts as the draft approaches next week. I guess we will have one more pre-draft meeting with PK beyond tomorrow, but that's it.
Yeah.
Right around the corner. Looking forward to it.
Thank God.
Yes. Very well
so
said.
close.
That does it for us today here on the show. If you missed anything, check it out. Robby and Rexrode, wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, theGameNashville.com. We got Chasing Big Joe coming up next. You're listening to 102.5, 106.3, The Game.